Thanks, team. G'day, team. Mark Connolly.
Churchy.
Welcome to the Church Pod.
Thanks, mate. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you very much. It's episode 2 of our Church Pod, but it's actually really episode 1 with a guest, because the first one was JB and I were just, setting the scene, I guess, which was why we're here. I think that's what we called it actually too, why we're here. And we were just talking off air about, what it's all about, and what a pleasure to have you on as well. You're ticking a few of the boxes. You're an illustrious, well-accomplished pilot. Served in the military for 16 years.
Yes.
And all sorts of other stuff probably, which we want to talk about.
Okay,
So,
yep.
But the logical place to start is probably at the start.
Yep.
Where is Mark Connolly? Who is he? Where's he from?
Rightio. I born in Australia. My father was in the army.
Okay.
Spent his whole working life there. One older brother who also joined the army.
Yeah.
Moved around every 2 years, as you do.
Okay. Yeah. So you're an army brat.
Yep.
Yeah.
Had some great experiences. Lived in the UK for a couple of years.
Oh, wow.
Started school.
What corps was your old man in?
He was infantry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did that take him post? Was he OR or officer?
He was an officer, yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
all right.
He
So
went
and
through Duntroon.
that
in
got him
the
overseas
60s.
as postings.
Yeah, it was an
Yeah.
exchange staff college.
Okay.
For
Yeah,
a couple
right.
of years in England, so that was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I got to sort of travel around a lot as a kid and see all sorts of different places. Lived in just about every state and territory
Wow.
in Australia at one time or another.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did that play with, like, growing up as a kid? That can be pretty traumatic for some kids because they don't settle into schools, and when they do, they make their friends, and then. Did you have any trouble with that?
Oh, yeah, it's always a little bit of a wrench to having to pick up and move, but no, you manage and you become very adaptable and you get good at fitting in and getting to know people. And
Was the family unit was pretty tight?
yeah,
Yeah.
just mum and dad and the two boys.
Yep.
We're only a year and a half apart, so
Okay.
we just travelled around the place together.
Yep.
Packed up our bongos and moved on. And, we were very fortunate that also then when my brother and I got to sort of mid-high school, Dad had a couple of jobs in a row within Cooey, Brisbane,
okay.
we managed to stay still when we
You managed to stay for the majority of your secondary schooling?
Yep.
Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, right. And so your brother joined the army?
Yes.
Was he older than you?
Yes.
All right. And it's because he wanted to follow in his dad's footsteps?
Yeah, well, I think it was just what he truly had a passion for. He's loved being in the army. He has just finished with the army about a month ago.
Okay, really?
After 33 years.
33 years, wow.
Yeah. But yeah, that's what he was all about. And
Yeah. Was he infantry as well?
He was, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
An officer as well?
Yes.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
33 years infantry officer.
Yeah.
Wow. Did he deploy?
Yes. He commanded a battalion in Afghanistan and
Wow.
got to do some great stuff. And yeah, he's an amazing person.
We'll have to book him. JB, put Mark's brother on the list.
Yep, do that.
No, that would be amazing. That would be amazing. So he joined the army. You're a year and a half younger than him?
Yeah,
All
so
right.
1 year behind him at school.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know, I wanted to fly planes. Funnily enough, my father's younger brother was a pilot in the Air Force as well. So the same thing happened 2 generations in a row.
Yeah, right.
Army, Air Force. But there was never any sense of that this was the expectation or that it was predestined. I just got bitten by the bug.
Yeah.
Went to some air shows at Richmond Air Force Base when I was a little kid.
I went to those.
Yeah.
I wanted to be a pilot too, but I was a bit too stupid.
Oh, well, yeah, I don't know what happened to me, but my uncle flew caribous and I loved a caribou.
Yeah.
And, ended up flying them. So, that was awesome.
Okay.
Yeah.
We don't have them in service anymore, do we?
No, they were retired in 2007 after 40 plus years of service.
Are they like a little baby Hercules?
Yeah,
like
yeah,
a short takeoff, short landing type airframe?
Yeah,
sort of thing?
yeah, similar sort of capacity to a Chinook.
Okay, all right.
But they use a slightly larger space to take off and land.
Yeah.
But they
on
had,
account of being fixed wing.
that's right. Yeah, but not much.
Yeah.
But sort of petrol-driven piston engines.
2 or 4?
2.
Okay.
14 cylinders a side, 2,000 cubic inch. Yeah. They're an amazing aeroplane, but they were very labour intensive to keep operating. And in the end, they just couldn't be kept going any longer. So they were.
What's a typical crew to keep one of those in the air?
It was 3. There were 2 pilots at the front and then a dual trained flight engineer and loadmaster.
Okay.
Those guys were awesome.
Yeah.
And if you were doing airdrop, then we'd take 2 flight engines and one of them looked after the stuff in the back.
Yep.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So your uncle flew them.
Yeah.
And did you do air cadets or any sort of cadet stuff?
Didn't do any of that. No, just loved planes.
Yep.
Knew I wanted to fly from, I don't know, about the age of 12 or something. Worked pretty hard through high school because I was pretty focused on that goal.
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. And particularly military as well. You'd want to be at a better standard, I suppose, than if you were going to fly bug smasher around.
Oh, the standards are really the same, but you're trying to get into a system that is going to statistically repel 99% of applicants.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to put on a good show. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I got knocked back when I first applied. I was in year 12. I was getting straight A's at school. I was a prefect. I thought I was pretty clever.
Okay.
And I went for my selection board and got solidly sat on my butt. Told, go away. There's no place for you, either as an officer or as an OR in any service branch.
That's brutal.
Yeah, it was pretty tough. But it really just put a fire under me. I just went and got a job, finished school, worked in Coles on cash registers and pushing trolleys.
Do you think after being a prefect in the school environment that maybe going to work at Coles and getting back to
best thing that ever happened to me? Yeah, it was a real come down.
Yeah, yeah.
And I learned a lot of sort of humility.
Yeah.
But
I didn't learn it till much later.
Well, I didn't learn enough. But yeah, I got a taste of it at least.
Yeah.
Maybe it was like a preparation of vaccination so that when the real hard stuff happened later in life, my brain went, oh yeah, I've been here before.
I think hopefully for most of us it happens at some point, hopefully, and you're brought back to grassroots and back to ground level, and you learn a bit of humility and
definitely. Yeah.
Do you think, looking back, that it was better that it happened earlier rather than later?
Yeah. I'm sure it was a great experience for developing resilience and it sharpened my focus on what I wanted to do. So I spent every cent on flying lessons and went back 12 months later and got in. Yeah.
You know, a bit about weeding out people. That's it. And what you said about lighting a fire under you. Yeah. I mean, that's the people that you want.
Yeah.
They get knocked back and get demoralised and and then don't just crawl away with the tail between their legs. They go, all right, no worries, I've got to work harder.
Yeah, and it was probably also the best thing that ever happened to me, because if I'd have gone into the Air Force straight out of high school, having been, reasonably successful there, you wouldn't be able to sit in the same room as me. You'd hate me. So I think it was really good to just go away.
I've sat morons, mate.
Yeah, I know, but none quite approach my way.
Yeah.
It's good. I think it is a good thing for young people to go away and have a gap year and push trolleys.
I could tell you some stories about that because I joined the army. I applied for the army when I was 16 and 9 months, and I had to ring somebody because there was no internet really back then. And I had to ring somebody and find out, or get some pamphlet or whatever. Like, when can I sign up? You got to be 16 and 9 months, right? So on the day, I'm 13, 1901. Hello, hello, it's Churchy. Want to join the army? How old are you? 16, 9 months. All right, get on a train to Melbourne.
Yeah, right.
And I went to Melbourne, and then and I did all the stuff, and I somehow got in, and they rang me up and they said, all right, and I always wanted to be a tanky.
Yeah.
I loved tanks, loved them.
Yeah.
I was like, Armoured Corps, that's where I'm going, right?
Yeah. And
I couldn't believe that I got in because, I was short-sighted, so I wore glasses, right? Not the end of the world. I just thought that was going to, so I I thought, oh, okay, no worries. And I was so excited when they marched me in, and I'm sitting in front of some LT, and he's like, all right, Mr. Allchurch or whatever, you're looks like you got through. You got in. What corps do you want? And I was so excited. I went, infantry.
Oh, really?
Forgot all about armour.
Yeah.
You know. I think he was an infantry officer as well, actually. So I think he was steering me in that direction. Armour. What do you want to go to armour for? But but in the end, yeah. And then my first enlistment date, they rang me or sent me a letter or whatever it was, and they said, your enlistment date's the 20th of February. Yeah. And I was like, you beauty, right, I'm going. And then I thought, oh, well, I'm actually still going to be 16. So I had to ring him up and say, just so you know, like, I don't care, I'll still go, but I'm not actually turning 17 until the 9th of March, right? So a couple of weeks. And the lady on the end of the phone just goes, oh, okay, hang on. And then the next day I got an updated letter that said, you're starting on the 14th, right? Yeah. So I turned 17 on the 9th, and on the 14th I was on the bus to Kapuga. Yep. And when I got there that afternoon, what have I done?
Yeah.
Oh boy. But yeah, looking back and how it all went, I learned a lot of lessons, very quickly, and the hard way.
Yes.
Like a bit of contact counselling and a bit of this and that, and it's shaped me for now. But looking back, just a bit more maturity. I was just so young, so young.
Yeah,
and just so immature.
I wouldn't have survived if I'd have gone straight from school to the Defence Force. I wouldn't have got through parts course, that's for sure. Yeah.
Certain level of maturity that needs.
Bit of something.
Yeah. Okay. So you worked hard for about a year, was it?
Yeah,
working at Coles and
12 months.
But you were flying. When did you actually start flying? Because you did some lessons while you were a teenager.
I went and did my private pilot's license.
Okay, so you already had a private.
In that year I had off. Yep. I just put everything. I went to night school a couple of nights a week to do all the theory subjects and spent all my money on flying lessons.
Yeah. Was that is that a prerequisite? Pardon my ignorance for joining the RAF?
No, not
or wanting to be a pilot, not necessirly.
No, they prefer to teach you their own way, but I had to do something to demonstrate motivation.
Sure, yeah. Well, why not?
Yeah,
and you might as well do something you love.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, so it was good. I had a great year.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, and so then you get accepted the second time around.
Yes.
Yep. And where's that take you? Where's the school?
I went to the Defence Academy in Canberra.
Okay.
Spent 3 years there.
Yep.
So
you've got to become an officer first?
Well, it's sort of you do a university degree and you do officer training along the way.
Okay. Yep.
And then you graduate and, you've got to do some extra stuff. So for the Army guys, they then go and do a year at Duntroon. And then they get their rank.
Right.
Air Force, it's a little bit more casual. I think we got it straight out of the Defence Academy. Anyway, we went to pilots course. That was our regimental officer basic.
Right. Okay.
It was pilots course.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Right. And what was that experience like? Did you you were training with some really good people?
Made friends that I'm still friends with now. In fact, the guys had a virtual pub the other day, but I missed it because I was flying. But great bunch of people, and we had 4 years together by the time we got through Defence Academy and then pilots course. And we started with 51 at Defence Academy. We graduated 30, went to pilots course, graduated 18 from there. So we lost a lot of mates along the way.
Yeah.
It was a pretty tough journey, but stayed close to a lot of those guys, including ones that didn't get through pilots course or whatever.
Yeah.
So.
Did you go on to serve and fly with any of those people that you went through with? At that time?
One time or another I worked with quite a few of them. So that was good. And the great thing about the Defence Force Academy, which was only very new back then and had only been going for a few years, was that some of the best friends I made were in the other services as well.
Okay.
So wherever I went, particularly as a Caribou pilot, worked with the Army all the time.
Yeah, for
sure.
And
a lot of the guys running the units I was working with at that level were blokes I knew.
Okay.
So that's great.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and where was your first posting? So you do that, and then you obviously got posted somewhere.
Pilots course, and I was posted to Fast Jets. So went and learned how to fly the Mackie, did an intro fighter course, had the mid-air, Had a few months on the ground as a
I've
result
been really
of that.
looking forward to that story.
Oh, okay, yeah.
No, we'll get there. We'll get there.
Yeah.
So hang on. So you want to be a pilot, right?
Yeah.
So you rock up and you go, I want to be a pilot. Do they ask you what you want to fly? Does everybody just say jets, and then if you don't get into jets, you go to something else?
It tends to be that way. So at the end of pilot's course, you put in your preference.
Yep.
And then they sit there and they look at the results that you're graduating with after your year and a quarter of training. Pretty much the guy that's number one performance-wise will get whatever he will be allocated to his first preference of the available postings, and then that one's off the list, and then the next guy down. So it tends to be that the guys that perform the best end up at fast jets.
Okay.
And
you would like it to be that way, presumably.
Yeah, well, yeah. The course, the RAF's pilot training is of an exceptional standard. It is really good.
Yeah.
But it teaches you to be a fighter pilot. Teaches you to be a single pilot. Kind of all self-sufficient kind of a operator.
Yeah. Okay.
And then people actually have quite a bit of difficulty. I did adapting to a multi-crew environment because it's just not what you were taught.
Okay. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
It's not
interesting.
Part of pilot schools. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So you got a spot. You got selected.
I got against it. In fact, of the 18 that graduated, 7 of us got to fast jets, which is pretty unheard of. Normally it'd be only the top 2 or 3.
What year was this?
1993.
That's early. So what? We had an F-18, right?
Yeah.
And we had the F-111.
Yep.
What else did we have? We would have had the Mackie, you say, which is the two-seat
lead-in
trainer.
fighter. Yep.
The lead-in fighter. Was that actually a fighter? Like it could actually carry missiles and do stuff?
Some countries use it, like South Africa used a variant of it.
Broke countries.
Rockets and we had a couple of 7.62 millimeter 6-barrel miniguns. You could strap one under each wing. We're just going to do strafing with it.
Any second-hand ones?
I don't know what they did with them.
Take that out, Hunt and JB.
Yeah, it was pretty capable. For what it was. It was a trainer, but yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, still good fun to fly, and a jet.
Yeah, that was cool.
So you train in those fairly hectic. There's a 2-seater. Do they have single-seaters as well?
No, just the 2-seater. Okay. Sometimes you fly a solo instructor in the back most of the time, and you you learn how to fly the aeroplane, and then you do a 3-month lead-in fighter course where you learn air-to-air combat and air-to-surface stuff, so bombing and strafing and all that sort of stuff. Yeah.
Yep.
And then you just flop around in what they call ops flight, just consolidating until there's a spot for you on a Hornet course or an F-111 course in that day.
Yep.
And during that time, you do a lot of fleet support work where you go and attack the Navy's ships.
Okay, so they can work out their defensive systems.
Yeah, you simulate anti-shipping missile as you scorch on in at sort of 300 knots at low level and all that sort of stuff. So it was great fun. Did some awesome stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
And now that Mackie has been replaced by the Hawk.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Same deal though, like a sort of a twin-seater thing, and then you fly it around. But same thing, just a newer aircraft, basically.
Much more capable one.
Okay.
It's supersonic and
and they can still load these up with a lot. I mean, presumably wouldn't have anywhere near the tech that an F-18's got in it.
Oh no.
But certainly
the Hawk is actually a pretty capable platform, air to surface and stuff. It's
right.
Good. Yeah.
If we really got in the shit, could we use them as fighters?
Yeah, we could. Yeah, but probably not in an air-to-air role, but air to surface.
What if we're up against I don't know, the West Indies or something?
I mean, you'd do anything you've had to. Strap a gun to a Dash 8.
We should put that to the boss. No, we shouldn't. Probably the wrong message. No. Yeah, right. So, and all right. So you did all of that, and then you're leading. Well, actually, this brings us to. So you're in training.
Yeah.
And you come to now. This is what I wanted to ask you. So you're flying around and you do a lot of single pilot stuff, obviously. But do you always fly with a wingman? Is that like a pretty much a given that anywhere you go, you have a wingman with you?
Yeah. It's kind of the basic unit.
Okay.
As a pair.
That would make sense. One's always covering the other one's ass.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Okay. So, do you have different wingmen all the time, or they give you somebody and you?
Oh, yeah, chop and change.
Chop and change.
There's a flying program. You're up with who you're with on the given day.
Yep.
Do what you do.
Yep.
Yeah.
So when you get, Brucey comes along, oh, damn it, I've got Brucey today.
Oh, I know. Everyone were mates, really. It's just...
No, that's right. That's good.
Yeah.
All right, so where were you posted to by this stage?
That was Williamtown, so Newcastle.
Yeah, just out of Newcastle. I've been there. I have been there when I was in the army. It's a loud joint.
Yeah.
I think it must have been an exercise going on when I was there.
Yeah.
Couldn't get any sleep. The bloody F-18s taking off all night.
Yeah.
Choppers and crap everywhere.
It's a bit that way.
Yeah, it was a hard yakka while I was in my little bivvy bag.
Yeah, I get it.
Oh dear, I was just a medic, so I was just kicking around doing nothing most of the time. All right, so you're doing your training there, and where's the training area? Like, so it can't be far from. There must be an area somewhere where you can go.
There's a huge restricted area just off the coast.
Okay.
It goes a long way out to sea.
Out over water.
Most of the training's done out there. There's also an overland segment that goes up to Taree.
Okay.
Sort of thing.
Yeah, that must have been where we were, because I reckon I was there with 16 Air Defence Regiment.
Yeah,
so that would make sense, right? We're out there with the RBS 70, and I think we still had the Rapier at that stage.
Okay, yeah.
Which they retired not long, or while I was there, I think, or not long after I left. Went to a full RBS 70, which is like a man portable type situation.
No, I remember we used to play with those guys.
Yeah. And one day I was out doing my medic run, just running around to see all the boys wherever they were, and pulled up onto this hill, and there's a tree line and then a rolling hill and whatever else, and we were just chewing the fat, and then they ran away. The radio squawked and they ran away, and then they're doing their thing, and I didn't even see the jet. I don't know where it was. I heard something.
Yeah.
I don't know, and it was like, there it is, and he's winging around. I'm going, whoa, where is it? Whoa. Just get back in your medic car, mate. You'll be all right.
Yeah.
I'd be no good shooting a bloody jet out of the sky, that's for sure.
I'm sure if you were trained.
Yeah, that's right.
Fine.
Yeah. So you're out there training. So let's go to the midair, because this must be a rare thing.
Yeah.
In certainly in Australian military aviation, I guess.
Yeah. Well, there've been the odd few. And there have been quite a few in the fighter world.
Right.
But I think mine was the last that I'd have to mull over that a bit. But yeah, it's become
any resulting in death?
There were a few, yes.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Early F-18 days, there was a fatal mid-air out at Tyndall. 75 squad, and the CO was killed.
Was that Fox?
Yeah, Ross Fox.
Right. So that was a mid-air?
Yes.
I did not know that. I knew about Colonel Fox?
Wing Commander.
Wing Commander Fox. Okay, so Wing Commander Fox. I knew about that. And I know about, I can't remember his name, the guy that maybe took his mask off or something. And
Cam.
That's a sad
Cam
story.
Conroy. Yeah, that was tragic as well. Yeah.
For those that don't know, it was, Fox was, I didn't realise that was a mid-air, but what was the other guy's name?
The fellow with the hypoxia.
Yeah,
that was a guy
hypoxia.
called Cam Conroy.
Cam Conroy. Yeah. He, whatever it was, I don't want to speak out of school, but I think somehow he took his mask off or had some sort of situation with his oxygen and got a hypoxia, passed out. The aircraft was on autopilot, and tracking to somewhere and just ticking along, and I think his wingman tried to find out what the hell's going on.
Tried to revive him and or tried to get him to respond.
How that?
Couldn't.
Yeah, so obviously by radio, how else do you even? I don't even know. Do you make turbulence in front of the aircraft or something?
No, you do, but fly along and tough stuff. The fellow that was in that other airplane was one of my instructors on pilot's course. A really good guy, flies for Cathay in Hong Kong now, and it's terrible. But I think in the old days of aviation, serious accidents were seen as cost of doing business, but there was a generational change in aviation generally, and in our fighter world around the time the Hornet was introduced. It was a new way of looking at things and managing risk, and we sort of brought it all to the next level and have had far less of those sort of serious incidents since then.
And you can still be a capable warfighting unit, So
I don't think by any means that the way that we train is cotton-wooled or less effective as a result. It's probably more effective. because it's very precise and it's very carefully planned to get maximum value with appropriate risk. And but it's extremely professional. I guess everybody in any field of endeavour sort of looks at the people at the top of their tree and thinks those guys lead the world. But I think our fighter force are an exceptionally professional team, and the standards that they hold themselves to and set are extremely high. And it's a very tough place to work as well for a lot of people, I think. But yeah,
I'd like to think that it's led from the top too, from the top down. Led by example, you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. There's a great commonality of perspective about how to operate, how to do business in that world. So
that's good. I mean, and because it is looked at like, I mean, you know, I think for the average person out on the street, I mean, jets are. I mean, there's not one person doesn't like a jet going over. Just even the old ladies look. Well, what's that bloody noise? You know.
Yep.
But nobody can not stop and have a look and just go, wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Because it's pretty cool. So, you know, you look at someone walking around in a flight suit. You know, that's the first place that you go.
Hopefully they.
That's why I wear one. One piece. Yeah, but no, not really. But you know, yeah, it's that. It is. You know, I'd like to think that it is viewed as a highly, highly professional. Like, I guess for us, you know, when you look at special forces, you know, in our line of work, you know, 2 Commando and the SAS. That's the first thing you think is, well, that's, you know, you got to be tough. And not just tough, you got to be smart, you got to be, you know, independent, you got to be a lot of things, you know, damn near superhuman in some respects.
Yes.
You know, and notwithstanding some of the latest revelations coming out of SAS, I'd like to think still there's bad eggs and everything, and you know, hopefully it's still a highly professional, capable unit.
Sure,
but it's not nice to see stuff coming out, which is really unfortunate. I don't know if you saw the Four Corners.
No, I didn't, and I can't really comment, but I think it'd be premature to form an opinion.
Yeah, watch the Four Corners episode.
Okay, no worries.
It's a bit hectic when there's video footage backing it up.
Okay.
You know. But once again, you know, it comes back to a couple of individuals, and it's not representative of the whole thing. So yeah, you're right. That's fair to say, but
I think you've also always got to apply the filter of judging people's. I mean, there are certain standards and ethics and rules that are immutable, but if we're going to send our young men and women into situations where for months on end they face the possibility of death every moment of every day, then to judge the way they manage what is a combat situation from the comfort of an armchair. And you get the same thing with aviation as well, right? Where people want to analyse decisions that were made airborne when they know what the outcome was. They know what the faulty component was that was causing the strange indications. So they're looking at it in hindsight in an air-conditioned room in a comfortable chair. You can't. You've always got to put yourself, well, what would the person in that situation have seen, known and felt?
Yeah.
Anyway.
No, look, it's absolutely fantastic point, Mark. It really is. It's well made too, because you're absolutely right. There's filters that need to be applied, and context is a huge issue. You know, human factor also. We learn about that, you know, in our current line of work in aviation as well. And it's the first time I've had, you know, formal human factors training. And whilst it seems a bit like, you know, when you're doing it, when you see it, human factors in action, when you actually really start to see the little signs, you know, along the way in your day-to-day operations, you start to see these things. And I think that was really well done in a movie, Sully, about the flight that went down the Hudson River.
Yeah, okay.
Right?
Yeah, I haven't seen it.
Once again, it's a movie, but it's a good movie, and Tom Hanks plays Sully, the captain of that. But what it does in the in the movie, it sort of depicts like they are doing that. They're pulling it apart and they go, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? And you had this time, and we've run scenarios, and we've run how many did you run? 21 scenarios, and then we got the thing to land. Righty-right. Yeah. And in the end, he just says, well, yeah, but you haven't taken into account the human factor. Yeah. The human factor to take enough time to fully, or try to, as best you can, understand a situation fully prior to making an executive decision. You know what I mean? Like in an emergency where things are going wrong and everything else, to make those decisions takes, if you're going to make a proper decision, you need to take a couple of seconds. Yeah. This used to teach us when we were medics, when you're coming towards a terrible scene, take your pulse first. Yeah. Just take it two or 3 seconds, take your pulse, relax, and then get stuck into it, and it'll all come back to you.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so the human factor. All right, so to that end, a mid-air collisions. I mean, how often do you fly that close to each other?
It's every day. It's like training with a footy team. You're doing drills, and you're moving close to each other, and
Right, so without going too much into, I guess, tactical stuff, but would it be to for if you're getting contacted by radar, you only want to be one little paint instead of two, or?
Oh, there's pretty clear rules. Beyond visual range, you're generally in separate height blocks. Okay. And you can't leave your height block unless you know that you've got sight of all the opponent aircraft that you're going into their space and all the rest of it. The hardest part is when you start practicing the close-in turning manoeuvring. Yeah. And on the day in question of the accident, we were doing what's probably the most challenging aspect of that, which is where you have 2 versus 1. So you've got 3 aeroplanes in the same knife fight. Okay. Any more than that, you won't actually do a full-up fight. You'll do the beyond visual range and the merge, and then go through like 180 degrees of turn and see who gets the best entry onto the others, and then it's over. And you go away and you reset and you come back and you practice that. Okay. But you'll actually take 3 aircraft into the full-up melee, right? And friends of mine that went on and were successful fighter pilots said to me that was the thing that always got the hackles up on the back of their neck, was when they were practicing that, because that's where things can come unstuck really fast. There's a lot of coordination between the pair. There's a lot of use of very specific words that in some cases have meanings that are 4 lines long, that exchange responsibilities and who's doing what, and how we're going to make sure that we don't get shot by the bad guy, don't crash into each other, and do shoot the bad guy and get out of here.
And manoeuvre all at the same time.
Yeah, there's a lot going on.
What, 400, 500, 600 knots? Or something ridiculous? Yeah,
those little aeroplanes were doing 250 knots or something. But
that's still quick.
Yeah, well,
what's 250 knots in kilometres? It's like double, isn't it? Like 500, 600 kilometres?
No, it'd be 400 or something.
400?
Yeah, it's all happening pretty fast.
Top speed of a Bugatti Veyron. That's quick, man.
Yeah.
Not a lot of time to make. Okay, so you one of the hardest manoeuvres, and one of the more difficult manoeuvres, and
one of the places where things can go wrong most quickly. So I was solo as a post intro fighter course, but student essentially, a consolidating guy waiting to go on Hornet course. Yep. And the lead of the formation similarly was a solo student, a mate. Yep. And then in the third aircraft, there was an instructor in the front seat. No, in fact, he was in the back seat, I think, flying as the Bandit aeroplane. Okay. And then a really good mate of mine, one of my ADFA classmates, sitting in the front but not flying, just observing. And in the subsequent court of inquiry, literally, it was found that there really needed to be an instructor in the lead aircraft of the pair. Okay. So it was too much responsibility for us as a pair of students to manage that. Okay. So those coordination sort of rules broke down. Yep. And there's a misunderstanding, and so we ended up in a situation where I was following the bad guy around, trying to shoot him. Yep. And my mate had tried to separate away, get some distance and then sort of pitch back in and take a missile shot while the bandit was distracted by me.
Yep.
But in doing so, came through the same little bit of airspace.
Yeah.
And just as he came through, I changed direction abruptly in response to something the bandit had done.
Right, of course.
And I was focused on him, but I looked as I did so and just saw this aeroplane blooming. It sort of went from, like a dot.
Because you
to
sort of essentially going in the same direction, but
we were 180 out to each other.
Oh, crikey.
We were fully head on. And when we hit
shit, I thought he was like,
we hit head on, and his left wing flashed past my canopy about a metre from where I was sitting and sheared my left wing completely off the aeroplane, or there was maybe half a metre of wing stump left on my aeroplane. And it took the outer...
literally got chills.
I guess so. It took the outer third of his wing off. So, but they hit pretty hard, completely ripped both aeroplanes to bits, and neither was flyable.
Do you remember what altitude you were at?
We're about 12,000 feet.
12,000 feet, okay. Jesus.
Yeah. So
what the hell went through your head then?
Well, I saw the accident coming, right? So I actually tried to take avoiding action and couldn't, because the flight paths were converging and I didn't have enough control authority, even with full backstick, to change the direction of my jet. So
because of your overall
inertia. You can imagine if two cars are about to hit each other, you can throw the wheel from lock to lock and jam the brakes all you want. If you're 2 metres from each other and about to hit, you're still about to hit, right?
Job's done.
So when I saw him, it was over.
Yep.
I had a go at trying to avoid him instinctively, and then we hit. My first response was I was amazed I was still alive. I guess in that half a second of kind of bracing, it was like, oh dear, I'm about to die.
That would have been too quick to even have a life flash before your eyes moment.
It was, I was just busy trying to miss him.
Yeah.
And then when we hit, I remember being surprised that the impact felt relatively mild. It just felt like hit a bit of turbulence sometimes, boof. But the jet then started rolling, sort of really winding up.
Yep.
And I didn't have the presence of mind to look out at the wing and see how bad it was. Or I didn't even really know where we'd hit. He sort of disappeared under my canopy sill and I couldn't see him just prior to the impact.
Mm-hmm.
But there was a caution panel like there is in our aircraft that lights up orange different captions to tell you things that aren't working.
Right.
And I remember while I was going full stick and rudder to the right to try and stop it from this winding up roll that it was doing, I looked at that panel to try and get a read of what was still working and what was gone.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether it was the violence of the roll or the adrenaline in me, but I couldn't read. All I could see was all these orange lights. I couldn't read any of the captions, but the jet was just winding up so fast that it only took me a second or two to go, this is not happening.
Yeah.
So I just sat up straight and grabbed the ejection handle down on the seat pan and pulled, and out I went. And that was the easiest decision I've ever had to make. I didn't have to agonise. Whereas my mate in the other airplane didn't see the crash coming, didn't know what had happened, thought that he had inadvertently got the aircraft into a spin, and he fought it for a lot longer. And my very close friend who was in the third airplane saw it coming, realised it was going to happen.
Right.
Said when we hit, the sky just filled with wreckage. He thought it was like a Michael Bay movie. It was like both airplanes had just exploded, which they hadn't. It was bits of debris.
Right.
But he saw me eject. He didn't know who was who, but he said he just watched the other jet just spiralling towards the ground and thought...
Have you got two-way comms?
You do. And he said he was like yelling, eject, but probably not over the radio. And he thought that whoever was in that aeroplane was already dead or was going to ride it in.
Here, aren't we?
Yeah, a bit of time dilation. Probably felt like forever. But in the end, my mate in that other aeroplane did eject, but he stayed in a lot longer and he was a lot lower. He'd descended a lot lower than me before he did get out. But fortunately he did, and he was fine. So that was good.
So... basically 12,000 feet, you hit a plane head on, takes out your wing, you start to spin.
Yes.
When you eject, how do you know that? Can you eject at any?
As long as you've got sufficient height under, you can eject in any attitude, and as long as the thing punches you away from the aeroplane, the seat that you're sitting in has the parachute behind your head, and the straps that you strap into the chair with are actually also a parachute harness.
Okay.
And so what happens is once you go out, you actually smash through the canopy. The top of the seat smashes that for you.
Oh, it doesn't pop off?
Metal spikes, not on that aeroplane. Others it does,
right.
But this one you go through. And the sort of first thing that happens, or it gives you a massive kick to get you clear of whatever's going on. And then once you're out, a little drogue chute about 1 metre in diameter gets released straight away.
Okay.
And whichever way you're going, that's going to stop you in space, and then you'll kind of settle under it.
Yep.
And then
gets you upright.
Yeah, and in theory you'll fall for a long time. If you're at 40,000 feet, you'd fall all the way to 10,000 feet, which would be a bit unnerving. But with me, it happened more or less instantaneously. There's a barometric.
Well, you're only 12.
Yeah. So there's a sensor that works out you're at about 10,000 feet, and it releases a shackle, and now that drogue chute pulls the main parachute out. Okay. At which time the opening force causes the actual seat you're in to fall away, and you're now just left hanging in the straps.
Right. So you don't hit the deck sitting in your chair.
No.
Okay.
No. That would be worse for your back than the ejection was, which was not good for my back. But
well, yeah. So we'll get to injuries in a minute. So okay. So do you know which way you ejected, or was it just happened? You just
I
just
have
get
no
down
idea.
there?
Yeah, it was
with your eyes closed, with your eyes open. Do you
I don't really know. I think they probably shut. Like it's 23G when that model of seat fires. So yeah, it's pretty disorienting. I remember
that's enough to wind you, surely.
Yeah. It probably did. I remember the rush of the airflow hitting my face at 400 or 500 kilometres an hour. It actually it broke the chains on my oxygen mask, ripped that off, ripped the visors off my helmet, and for a short time there was a sensation of like not being able to breathe. But very quickly it all just stopped, and then suddenly I was hanging in a parachute harness, and that was really surreal. Because I'd never parachuted before. We had instructors from parachute training school at Nowra come and do basic floor drills with us and teach us how to do parachute roll.
How to parachute roll.
All that stuff, in the event. Yeah. But it was like 3 seconds ago I was just flying my plane doing what I do every day, and now I'm hanging in a parachute harness, which is not much to it, 10,000 feet up in the sky. It was
over land or over water?
It was over land, fortunately. It was too much for my brain to process. And I can still remember this really little bizarre sorting thing going on where my brain would go back to I saw that jet coming and we were going to hit, but it couldn't quite deal with that. So I'd say, no, that didn't happen. But I am here hanging in a parachute at 10,000 feet. This bit's real. And it sort of cherry-picked for a while. And in the shock, it sort of went, all right, that bit can't have been real, but this bit's probably real. And it sort of shopped around for a while until finally it went, no, actually it's all happened. This is real.
Is this still in the air?
Yeah, I was just hanging there. I was in the chute for a long time because you'd probably...
well, the chute would have to be big enough to take your weight plus the chair's weight to begin with, wouldn't it?
Yeah, or does that... It's got to have a slow enough rate of descent that you don't hit the ground hard.
Because technically you might be unconscious and you can't do any sort of roll or anything like that.
Yeah, but even doing a parachute roll, it puts you down a lot harder than a nice sports chute would. Mm-hmm. But
you don't have the opportunity to flare or anything.
No, it's like the round chutes that guys used to do static line with. Okay. So it's not very steerable, and I had dislocated my left shoulder, so I couldn't really steer it. But okay. It's going down about 1,000 feet a minute, which when you reach the ground, that's really fast. The ground's coming up at you really fast.
Yeah, 1,000 feet a minute that's a lot.
That's quick. Yeah, if you landed an aeroplane like that, that'd hurt.
Oh yeah.
But at the same time, it means it took over 10 minutes to get to the ground, and in that time, the parachute harness did quite a bit of nerve damage, digging into my leg.
Yeah. Okay.
On the one side, so that wasn't real good. It was a bit painful, but I couldn't get my body weight off it because of the left shoulder, which had popped out and back in.
So that's called a sublux, I think.
Yeah. Did that during the ejection. I don't know why or what
it hit. 23 Gs?
Yeah, maybe that. I don't know. Or maybe it struck the canopy sill on the way out, or
because it breaks through the canopy. I mean, that just blows my mind that the chair breaks through the canopy. The canopy's like, you'll be right. Yeah. We'll just make the chair go through the canopy.
Yeah, well,
what the hell?
It worked.
What's the canopy made out of? Some sort of perspex?
Thick perspex.
All right. Yeah. Okay, so 10 minutes. Where do you land?
Okay, so if you've ever driven up the Pacific Highway north of Newcastle towards Taree, it's really thick bushland.
Mm-hmm.
And somewhere along the way you go past this sign that points down a side track that says, this way to the tallest tree in New South Wales.
And the shortest bloke.
Yeah. So
he just got ejected out of a plane at 23 Gs.
That's right. And I used to be 6'4" until this day. So, yeah, in answer to your question, that's where I landed, was
that's
a few kilometres from that sign. So
you know what, JB, we're going to call this podcast, Mark Connolly, the tallest tree.
Yep.
Oh, that's great. And so, what's the tallest tree? So it's off the Pacific Highway. It's a roadside sighting for nomads to go down and a photo shoot.
But it is tall timber.
Okay.
And that was probably the worst bit of the whole day, was coming down towards the bush at a great rate of knots and looking at it and going,
1,000 feet a minute.
I'm going to get impaled.
And now by this time the chair's gone.
Yes.
So you're literally just hanging in
You've got a little seat pack, a bit like the cushion that you sit on in the aeroplane that we fly.
Yep.
Is still attached to your bum.
Okay.
So the drill if you're going into timber is to curl your knees up to your chest and cover your face and hope you don't hit anything too pointy.
Hope you don't get something up your backside.
That's it,
Need to see a proctologist.
Well, I was fortunate. I went through the canopy pretty much unscathed, but then the parachute sort of snagged on a big branch, and I actually pretty much came to a complete stop about 50 or 60 feet off the ground for about 2 or 3 seconds. I sort of did a Daffy Duck. I looked at the camera and said, "Mother," and then just sort of free fell. And that was the worst part of the day, because I thought I'm going to be lying on the ground with all of my bones broken. And
it happened in the last 50 feet.
Yeah, but weirdly, and I've actually got photos that the accident investigation team took. The canopy subsequently snagged on enough different branches that it was a bit like doing a bungee jump. Right. It slowed me down incrementally.
Yeah.
And then I hit a really steeply sloping bit of ground and just sort of slid for a few metres down this slope. So there was no parachute roll. I just went boop.
You just...
And came to a stop. And, and I thought, I'm just not feeling the pain yet. Like everything's broken and I just haven't felt it yet.
You've now got to lay there and go, okay, that just happened. Now you've got to try and do a secondary survey on yourself.
Yeah, that's it. But I got up and I was fine. I remember I ripped my helmet off and my earplugs out and took my gloves off and just went, oh, I'm all right.
Took your harness, got away from that? Isn't you standing there basically
got out of
clean
that.
Skin?
Yeah.
Because you would wear, you'd have a flight suit on, you'd have some other...
You got a life preserver.
Yeah, right, which with a life jacket in it.
Yeah, a bit like one of the yellow life jackets that we use, but with a green covering on it.
Okay.
And some survival gear around your waist. And
yeah.
But I was fine. And it took a while until I started to notice. So I had crushed a couple of vertebrae in my thoracic from the force of the seat firing. But I hadn't really felt it yet at that stage. And on the way down, I was looking at this logging trail along the top of a ridgeline and trying to get myself onto that.
Yeah.
But with those chutes, you've got to pull down on 2 risers in one direction to sort of steer it, and I couldn't really use my left arm, so I was just sort of pirouetting. So I ended up halfway down that slope, but I knew there was this logging road up the hill, so I walked up the hill to the road and waited there for the rescue chopper and figured that was a bit of a clearing where they could sort of get to me. Yeah.
Did you have some sort of locating beacon?
In the little pouches around your waist, you've got a radio that does 243 and 121.5. Okay. You've got pen gun flares.
Yep.
And a few other things like that. So I got the radio out and I talked to the...
yeah, it's Mark.
Yeah, well, pretty much. Well, in fact, they were calling me, the guy in the third aeroplane, the instructor, who's a very, very experienced guy who'd gone away to airlines for a lot of years and had recently come back to instructing as a reservist.
Okay.
And he had been through this exact situation before. He had, in the Mirage, I think, had his formation have a mid-air collision, lost a couple of mates. So he dealt with it extremely well. He coordinated the rescue. He checked in with me and with my mate and let us both know that the other was alive and well.
Okay.
And, got the helicopter coming out and all that sort of stuff. So that was excellent.
Right.
Yeah.
Was he circling overhead somewhere,
Yeah,
or you could hear that?
Yep.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the chopper comes out to get you.
Yeah.
All right. So you're there. Do you get airlifted out there by the chopper? They winch you out.
Yeah, they winched the litter down, and the squadron doctor, who was a good friend, came down and got me into the litter. He said later that I had so much adrenaline I would have shimmied up the cable if he'd have let me.
I can imagine.
But he put me in the litter, and they tried to winch us both up, and the motor couldn't hack it, so they winched us back down. He got off, and then they just pulled me up and got him, and then we went and got my mate.
Okay.
And that was the best moment of the whole day, was when his grinning mug came over the edge of the chopper deck.
So, the next thing I was going to ask was, so how'd your mate go? Like, because you said he didn't pull the canopy, pull his ejection seat until much later.
A bit longer, yeah, but he was still plenty of height under him.
Yeah.
He was fine. He crushed one vertebrae in his thoracic. Otherwise, he's pretty good. And he was fine. And it was a dedicated rescue chopper, so the litters we were on clipped onto the floor. So I was already clipped onto the floor, and he came up over the sill and got clipped in next to me, and we just grabbed each other's hand and just nothing said. Just yep. Glad you were alive, So that was good.
And look, I mean, it doesn't sound like anybody's fault. This is training. You're out there. You gotta,
pretty much. And there was an action investigation and a board of inquiry, and there were some things that technically weren't done right, but there was a lack of supervision. But then the squadron produced 3-inch thick pile of paperwork from the last 3 years screaming they didn't have enough instructors to supervise the bog rats adequately, and then the wing produced their pile of paperwork screaming to Air Force headquarters that they didn't have enough pilots to man instructors in the training squadrons, and it was an organisational accident. So
I think that's good.
Yeah, no,
I think that's good. If it goes up, we told you we need more people.
Yeah.
Oh no, you're right. If you make, because we do that, don't we? We make it work.
Yeah,
look,
exactly.
we really need more people. All right, we'll just make it work this time.
Yeah, exactly.
So you make it work this time, and then the next time, and then all of a sudden, they can do it with this amount of people. Well, what's the problem?
Yeah, I think there was some good learning out of it. Unfortunately, my mate had a tough time for one reason or another for a while after that. He went on and successfully got through Hornet course. I didn't.
Okay.
But he had a bit of a rough run as a result of the whole thing.
Well, that was going to be my next question. How... because in the aftermath of that, how does, I mean, it just sometimes it depends on the person. A terrible, car accident or something like that, and once the adrenaline wears off, some people can have some real trouble getting back in a car or getting back on a horse if they have a horrible, accident on a horse. Yeah. How did you go?
Yeah,
it took you a while to get over a couple of crushed vertebrae. You would have had to be...
Yeah, I couldn't fly for, 3 or 4 months.
Yeah.
Only because there was a risk that if I had to eject again, I could rupture the spinal canal.
Right, dead right, yeah.
So they had to heal properly before I could fly again.
Yeah. I think they call that a burst fracture, I reckon, because I've had one. I did my
really?
T12, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
So I'm a little bit shorter than I should be as well. Yeah,
okay.
That one vertebra is 20%, they reckon, smaller than it should be.
That's nasty.
Yeah, a little bit chipped off and was sitting in my spinal column thing, but they reckon it was small enough that my body would, over time, they didn't have to surgically go and get it. They could, that it would be reclaimed by the body just over time. So, but I was 18 and I was in the spinal unit after a motorcycle accident, right? So I was in the spinal unit. 2 weeks later, I walked out.
Right.
And 2.5 weeks later, I went back to work.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Not ideal.
Probably not, no.
But when you're 18,
that's right.
It should be right.
Yep.
Yeah. So you couple of months you got over that. When so you get back in the plane, you kept training, kept flying.
Yeah, went back to it.
It was a bit ginger to start with.
Yeah. It was all okay. I found it hard doing that stuff. And not long after I went back to flying, I scared myself in doing the same kind of activity. And I think, I guess I just suddenly become pretty aware of my own mortality. But anyway, I bubbled on. I got onto Hornet course, and I just got a bit maxed out by trying to fly the F-18, and I failed the course pretty early on.
That wouldn't be uncommon, right?
No.
That wouldn't be uncommon. I mean,
after everything they put into you, they'd like to think that most guys should actually get through, but it's a pretty tough course. Yeah. And you've got to be a very capable person to do that job. You've got to have a big brain.
Does that stay with you a little bit? Does that sort of sit somewhere in the back of your mind? You think, wasn't quite good enough.
Yeah, no, it doesn't worry me too much. I think it was another great humbling experience in life. And in fact, I was very lucky because I actually got 2 goes at F-18 course, which is extremely rare. Very few people ever get a second shot at that. Okay. So I failed.
You think maybe the ejection? He's ejected. He's
no, it was more or less. What happened was I failed Hornet course. The guy that was the executive officer of the Hornet training unit at that time is now the chief of the Air Force, and a guy I've got a great deal of time for, Mel Hutfeld.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah, and fantastic bloke. Yep. And he looked after me when I was taken off the course. Yep. Got me the posting that I wanted, which was to go and fly Hercules tactical Hercs at 36 Squadron. But he said to me, go do that for a couple of years, give it your best shot, but we might try and get it back, because he felt that the mid-air had affected my confidence or whatever.
Fair enough, yeah.
And in the end, he went into bat for me and he got me back in for a second go, which I was really deeply grateful for. So I spent a year and a half on Hercs and then went back to fighters and did a Mackie refresher and whatever. Yep. And then I got a lot further through Hornet course than the first time, but I still hit a brick wall. Okay. And I guess, it part of that is it's a little bit frustrating to have gone through all that effort, because in the end I spent over 4 years in the fighter system, and I never actually got to do the job. But I think they did me a favour. I think I'm probably I was always probably going to feel like the bloke on the team no one would pass the ball to. I think I was there because I was motivated and they wanted to give me a bash, not because I was the most talented guy. And that was kind of those my instructors on pilots course and all the rest of it. But yeah, I was better off going and becoming a transport pilot, and that allowed me to do a lot of other fantastic things that I've done since. So
the way that I hear that is, suffering a failure, failure is a big shitty word, but instead of, I've been robbed and wearing it around like it's, whatever. And, instead you go, all right, no worries. Well, I gave it a hard crack.
Yeah, that's
and it sucks, but interesting. You don't really want to be that guy that everyone's just like, well, you had 2 guys, maybe they'll let you know what I mean? I don't want to be that guy.
Yeah, no. I was incredibly fortunate and had great experiences. I think training to be a fighter pilot in the Royal Australian Air Force was a tremendous privilege. And
that training wouldn't have been lost on you, certainly.
No, as a pilot and as a person, that was the best formative experience ever. And I got to break the sound barrier solo. I got to do phenomenal things, incredible experience to have had.
Yeah, absolutely.
But in the end, I went away and, then I went off and flew the Caribou. I had 7 years on Caribous, and that was my niche.
Yeah.
I absolutely loved it. So, no regrets there.
Okay. Yeah. And in the 16 years, any overseas stuff, any deployments? Or,
on Caribous, I had a tour in Timor, and as a young co-pilot, and then later on Solomon Islands as the detachment commander and the air component commander for the Joint Combined Task Force. So got to both ends of the spectrum there. It was great.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Best people to work with, great aeroplane to fly, and just fantastic job.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really good.
That's good. That's good to hear. And you you met your wife at some point along the journey?
Yeah, so I've actually been married twice.
Okay.
And my first wife, who is still a very good friend and wonderful person.
Yep.
We met in the Air Force, and she was like a fighter controller.
Okay.
And part of a group of young people, kind of all getting around together in the officers' mess and being silly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As you do.
Yeah, and that was great. And we were married, and in fact, when I was going through Hornet course the second time, she was pregnant with our first baby.
Okay.
Which was in the back of my mind as I went to work each morning.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and we ended up having 4 children. It was wonderful.
Yeah.
Very, very blessed. We went our separate ways in the end, and I've remarried
Okay.
to a very wonderful lady. So, I'm very lucky, surrounded by great people.
That's good. And your 4 kids, how old are they? They're all left the coop?
Oldest is 21.
Okay.
So he's at Duntroon at the moment. He's done his engineering degree at
Army,
ADFA.
Navy, Air Force.
No, I think he'd probably be the only one. My daughter's 19 and she is studying to be a primary school teacher.
Okay,
And she's
need more of those.
doing awesomely at that as well. Yeah, so they're both doing exceptionally well as young adults, both with wonderful life partners already, and just doing great. And then I've got 2 little boys who are about to turn 15 and 13.
Okay.
Yeah. So great little crew.
That's good.
And then my dear wife has 4 children of her own.
Okay, all right.
Who are aged sort of 25 down to 18. So
Okay.
yeah, it was at one time or another. It's a big, full, happy household.
Oh, nothing wrong with that. Long as they're all good kids and everybody's contributing and making Dad proud. So,
yeah, definitely.
So out of the whole lot, only your eldest son is at Duntroon at the moment.
Yeah.
And that's he's in the army.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
There you go.
What corps?
Well, he'll probably be RE because he's Civ Eng.
Oh, of course. You said he was studying engineering. All right.
But then again, he
Look
could
out, JB. He's coming your way.
Oh, goodness. I'm sure you'll show him the ropes he'll need.
No, that's good.
Good sergeant.
Yeah, well, every officer needs a good sergeant, I think.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, right. So you get out of the RAF. What year was that?
2005.
2005, and they retired the Caribou 2 years later.
2007. Yeah.
Did you see the writing on the wall?
No.
Or
it was time.
It was time.
Yeah. My 2 oldest children were sort of 5 and 3. I was spending a lot of time away from home, and I was finding it hard to balance the commitment that I felt I needed to give to the Air Force with the commitment I felt I needed to give to my family. I couldn't reconcile the two, so it was time to move on.
Mate, I think 16 years, I think you did your part, mate.
No real regrets.
Yeah.
It was awesome. I loved it, but
And you know what? I'm a huge believer. If you're going to be in service life, you really should give it everything. And and the family does suffer. I mean, it absolutely does in a lot of respects. It did. Is it possible that had a lot of an effect on you and your ex-missus as well?
No, I don't think there was any great trauma out of that.
No.
But, no, it
just
was
one of those things.
It was just, I couldn't. I either stayed at work to do the stuff that my people needed me to do for their well-being and their career, and then looked at my watch and went, the kids will be asleep by now again, and I said I'd be home for dinner. Yeah. Or I went stuff it and I went home in time to see my children, and in the back of my mind I knew that there was a bloke that was trying to get a promotion course who needed me to write something for him that I hadn't written. And I could, there was no way of reconciling the two. And I'm not knocking the Defence Force. It's a very high functioning, amazing, organisation. But it tends to be that whatever unit you're in does the single most important thing on the planet. And therefore the operational pace is extremely high, and you'll get a rest when you go to your next posting where those whackers do something that's not important, but right here, right now, you'll give your all. And then you get posted to the next place and lo and behold, the exact same story, And I had foolishly taken promotion to a level where I suddenly realised it's only going to get worse from here, So I just wanted a humble job. I just wanted to go and work 9 to 5 and then clock off and go home to my family. And
fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. And okay, so you already had a private pilot's license anyway. You joined the RAF. You did 16 years.
Yeah.
is that somehow civilian accredited? You can walk out and you've got a commercial pilot's license, or you still got to go and sit that?
Yeah, for your RAF pilot training, they credit you with a commercial license.
Okay.
So that's good.
With all your instrument ratings and everything, you just basically get a type rating and away you go?
Yeah,
pretty much?
There's a few gaps you've got to fill in.
Okay.
And they're reasonable. Having
reasonable.
done it all, it's some of the stuff in the military is very specific,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of stuff in commercial aviation you're expected to have a much broader grasp of regulation, and
Okay.
so you've got to go and fill in those gaps yourself. But
Okay.
I had done that along the way anyway.
Yeah.
And I applied to Flying Doctors and got a position in Bundaberg. So moved the family there, and Bundy's home, and we've been.
And
there
because you're a Queenslander through and through.
I kind of did high school in Brisbane.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So
of course you were a bit of, you were around the place, when you were a kid and then overseas and then, but when you got back and you joined, I suppose the military would have taken you everywhere too, because you pretty much joined the military straight away. So
it's a bit that way.
Yeah. Queensland's home though.
Queensland's home now. Bundaberg's home now.
Bundy.
2 little boys were born in Bundy.
Yeah.
And it's a lovely place to bring up a family. So.
Yeah, right. I've only been to Bundy once. We stopped in there for work.
Right.
And one night and one down the pub. I think it was a Sunday. It was pretty quiet, but it was a tidy joint. It was nice. Went down the pub, had a feed. It was lovely.
Yeah.
It was good.
Yeah, it's good.
So they make some pretty terrible rum there.
Oh.
Queensland diesel.
Yeah,
so tan your insides and put hairs on your bum. So right. All right. So you get out and Royal Flying Doctors.
Yes.
Yeah, right. What were you flying there?
It's King Air.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. And that would have taken you all around the place too.
Yeah,
really?
You got around a bit within Queensland predominantly. Okay. Occasionally you get into Sydney or Melbourne or something.
All right. But only overnighters really, like sort of back the next day?
It's normally out and back in the day or the night.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the problem. Half the shifts you did were 6 p.m. till 6 a.m. So you did 6 till 6 days and then 6 till 6 nights and then you had days off.
Not a fan of night shift.
Yeah, that sort of got to me after a few years. And by the time I eventually moved on, I'd done 8 years and I loved the job. I loved the organisation. Loved what I was doing.
It would be rewarding too, wouldn't it?
It is good.
People around who are all hurt.
It's a fantastic.
Had any of them been ejected out of an aircraft?
Not that I remember, but the people that had done far worse stuff. But I loved doing that, and I loved being at home a lot.
Yeah.
It was really good in that regard.
Yeah, well, particularly with young kids as well. Man.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we homeschooled our children through primary.
Okay.
And a lot of that I did on my days off or, of a morning when I was going to go back to bed for a night shift or whatever. And
it
was just wonderful to be with them all the time.
Way to spend time with your kids too.
Which is what I left the Air Force to do. So it was brilliant. And, not a bad word to say about it. Just that the night work didn't work out for me in the end, and I needed to move on. And in the end, when I look back, I should have left earlier than
a long time ago.
Did. Yeah,
that's the old benefit of hindsight, isn't it?
Yeah.
I should have got out of trucks a long time before I was.
Yeah.
But anyway, it is what it is.
Yeah.
It is what it is. So, and then between there, it took you to where we are now?
No, I went to PNG flying Dash 8s for Octetti Copper Mine for a couple of years. That was 4 weeks on, 4 weeks off.
PNG.
Yeah, it was interesting. I'd spent a lot of time up there on the Caribou.
So it wouldn't have been unfamiliar territory.
No.
There's some high-lower safes over there.
There are, yeah.
I think it's 14,600 going into Port Moresby.
Something like that, yeah. It's a very challenging place to fly.
Yeah. There's, in fact, I had to reach out to a mate of mine who I served in the Army with as a medic. It was a few years ago now, but there was a young bloke, I can't remember his last name, but his name was Daniel, and he was only a young fella, and it was Ben Joseph was an FO with us, and he came and see me. He said, I'm really worried. My mate, Daniel's crashed somewhere in PNG, but he called someone on his mobile phone, like he's still alive.
Oh, wow.
Right, but where the bloody hell he was and whatever else. And I'm like, and he said, I don't really understand because it hasn't been on the news. It's kind of a big deal. Like there's an Australian pilot down in PNG. And I didn't know anything about any of this sort of PNG or flying around there, not much. I was pretty new to where we work now, and I said, well, and it was a bit flat. I was like, well, how can I help? I don't know. So I thought, well, who the hell do I know that's got anything to do with PNG? And so this guy that I served in the Army with, shout out to Brad, he's been over there quite a lot. He used to run tours over there for the Kokoda track.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, he's a well-connected guy. And he knows people everywhere. And I just Facebook rang him and I said, mate, this is going to be weird. Haven't talked to you for bloody 10, 15 years. Hope you're well. Mate, I need your help, you know. He said, what do you need? And I told him the story and I said, I don't know, I'm just reaching out to see if you know anything or anything you can do. And he said, mate, yeah, look, I know the ABC reporter or somebody's a mate of mine, and he you know, he works in PNG. He's posted there, kind of thing, as a journalist or something or other. So he said, I'll give him a ring, see what we can find. And you know, anyway, so and then we went out for a flight, and by the time we came back, and he sort of, I can't remember too far the sequence of events, but unfortunately he'd passed away, and they did know about it. But I hadn't considered how difficult the terrain is, and how hard the weather systems are, and how difficult it is to just to even get to somewhere, to get to somebody.
There's
so
no roads, a lot of those places.
and of course, you know, now that, I mean, it makes sense. I mean, what PNG bloody topographically kind of looks like, you know. So, and since then, I've taken more interest in you know, the flying over there, and talked to a lot of people that have actually flown over there, and just the crazy stories they've got of how they fly around in these massive lower safes with these weather systems and whatever else. And in fact, aircraft crashes in PNG are out of control.
Yeah, it's pretty common,
yeah.
unfortunately.
And in fact, the chief pilot of this particular place had crashed the week before.
Yeah.
Right. So I just learned all this stuff. I'm like, why the hell would you want to fly around in PNG, for crying out loud?
Yeah, unfortunately for a lot of guys, it's a good way to go and get a bunch of hours and get their foot in the door in aviation, but it is a hazardous place to fly. Yeah.
Bit of crime and stuff over there too.
There are some problems. Yeah. Oh, they're wonderful people.
For sure.
PNG people have just got hearts of gold, but there's a small element like anywhere that we're on it.
Yeah, well, I wandered over there once, and we were sort of escorted from there to the hotel. But they were lovely. No dramas. I've been all around the world and dealt with people. We just treat them with respect. Yeah, you know, the shady ones. They look shady.
Yes.
So you just stay away from them. Yeah, right. So flying around in PNG, how many years did you do that? That was 4 weeks on, 4 weeks off?
Yeah,
okay.
I was only there for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And then I went to the consulting job with the oil and gas stuff, which was a few years.
Okay.
Running around oil rigs and other places trying to sort of apply aviation thinking in other high-risk environments.
Okay.
So, yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
And not behind the bloody controls of an aircraft.
No, it was good to have a break from flying, I think. Yeah. It's just used a different part of my brain for a while. So.
Okay. So a couple of years doing that, and then does that bring you to where we are now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So there you go. So that's how many years in aviation now?
Well,
I mean, technically, you already had your private pilot's license.
Yeah, 32 years since I started flying. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
What are you? I mean, how long do you think you'll fly for? I mean, you'll fly until you can't fly no more, really. Even if you're just
I don't know.
cruising around a bug smasher somewhere.
Oh, maybe. No, it's expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What if I pay you to teach me how to fly?
Sure. Yeah.
Oh, JB, put that on the list. We'll go and do it on Sunday. You free Sunday?
I don't have an instructor rating, unfortunately. So.
That doesn't matter.
No.
I can teach you how to drive a truck. I'm not a truck instructor. That's the loud pedal on the right.
Right. Okay.
Look, I really do one day, and it is absolutely the money that, I've just got. I mean, that dirty great big boat that I've got, that's where all my money went.
Yep.
And then setting up this, which is, doing that. But one day, if I get the money together, I really do want to go and fly. It's one of the last things I've, ever since I was a kid, I've driven anything with wheels, motorbikes and cars and trucks and, earth moving stuff and whatever. I haven't flown a helicopter and I haven't flown a plane. So I don't like helicopters. I mean, I like helicopters, but they crash a lot. Yeah. So this job at the moment takes away a little bit. It's a FIFO sort of situation, and I mean, from what you've been saying, the firefight model definitely had a bit of an impact on. It does have an impact on your family life. You know, is it because there's just nothing that tickles you that's more local? You know, and why not the airlines?
Yeah, so there's nothing really in Bundaberg, unfortunately, from a pilot point of view. There's only flying doctors, and I've done that.
Yep, been there, done that.
Used that up. Airlines has a lot of challenges of its own as well. A lot of time away from home. I'm pretty solidly based in Bundaberg for the time being. Don't really have the latitude to move uproot everybody else. So I go away and work and come back.
It makes
Everybody
sense.
else stays in Bundy and does their thing.
And pretty much the polar opposite of what it was like growing up as a kid.
Yeah, pretty much.
Do you think that's part of it maybe, that you're just like,
it's being in a second marriage. You know, you need to be aware of everybody's needs. So we'll keep everybody in one spot and let them do what they do.
Yeah.
And I could go to an international airline and base myself out of Bundaberg, but it wouldn't really work being a domestic airline pilot out of Bundaberg. So airline's not really an option. But this job works well. I don't like being away from home. I'd love to have a job where I came home every night, but it's a fantastic job in itself. I love the job and the people I work with, and I'm very happy to be here doing this. And then if I get the other half of my life to be home with my family, well, that's good.
Yeah, that's the bonus.
Yeah.
Means to an end.
That's it. Yeah.
Well, that's cool, man. Well, how are we doing, JB, for time? All good. Been about an hour and a half? Hour and 15.
Right.
Mate, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Shouldn't keep you too long.
No, that's all good.
What a great story. Getting there. And does your back give you grief now?
It hasn't done. It's been 25 years and I've managed it fine, but in the last 6 months, unfortunately, it's gone downhill pretty badly, and so that's all now in the mill with DVA.
Oh, God, that old meat grinder.
And possible seeing a neurosurgeon. But basically my lumbar spine's now collapsed to the point where it's compressing nerves.
And
that's
which is sciatica and give you sciatic pain and everywhere else.
But I did pretty well out of 25 years. And now it's going to take a bit of management, I think.
Well, look, you're a reasonably fit kind of guy. You get her out riding and you go walking and running each. Like, you still run and do all that sort of good
I have
stuff.
been. I can't run now because of the neural problem, but I'm hoping to get back to that.
Stick to the low impact stuff, swimming and all that. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, I mean, look, if you were bloody, 10, 20 kilos heavier, do you know what I mean? Like, and because that's the thing, living away, working away. Sometimes if you don't control what you're eating and your diet and get some exercise when you're working away, you know what I mean?
It can go downhill pretty quick.
Sit there watching Netflix flat out when you're not working. And of course we're pretty stationary in a plane.
Yeah. Exactly.
I thought I was bad when I was driving trucks, but at least when I was driving trucks, roadhouse meals were, pretty regular every day, and a lot of coffee and Coke and cross knows what else. But, I was unloading and loading at each end, and it was a bit more physical and changing tyres and whatever else. But now in aviation, I sit less than, more than I did before. So now and I'm in my sort of late 30s. So I'd need to do it, start looking after it now. Because if I don't,
comes home to roost 7 hours at a time in a chair is not a good thing.
No, not when some of these Dash 8s don't have great chairs in them either.
And a bit of turbulence and everything, that's not good either. So.
No. Well, mate, it's a real pleasure having you on, man. I really appreciate you coming on, mate. Thank you very much. Thank you for your service.
Oh,
and I'd love to talk to you later on down the track somewhere. All the best to your son as well. All your kids really, what they're doing, but particularly his son. I'd love to talk to you later about that and see how he's going through Duntroon and how Ramey goes. And all the best, man. And hopefully one day we'll talk to you again, and maybe one day might get your brother on here.
Yeah,
that'd be a mad talk too. So.
Thank you for having me.
No worries. Mate, thank you very much. Appreciate it, Mark. All the best. Thanks, team. Thanks for listening. That's episode 2. Thanks, JB. And that's Church Dog Out. We'll talk to you soon. See ya.